Good morning, everyone. I think we're ready to get started. I'm not seeing any indication that I shouldn't. I want to call the meeting to order. Ask everybody to please turn your cell phones off so we don't have any distractions, and would ask the members to have a look at the agenda and let me know if you have any additions or subtractions.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve today's agenda.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none. The agenda is approved. It's time for public comment. I'll call names, and if you'll just identify yourself for the record, where you live, et cetera. Mr. Ferguson? No comment? Okay. Mr. Ferguson has declined to speak. Sandra Burkhart? Will you just put that right in front of your mouth? Wait a minute, we might need to turn that on.
My name is Sandra Burkhart. I live in Sandy Springs, which is in Fulton County. I recently attended a press conference by Voter GA. Several issues were mentioned of the 2020 election that perhaps will be avoided in the future. One of them was 17,724 final certified Fulton votes that have no ballot images, which is crazy. 374,128 in-person ballot images for the original count are missing. 4,000 tabulator images have impossible duplicate timestamps. 104,994 images files in 1,096 batches have impossible duplicate timestamps. Many as 10 ballots were adjudicated in 1 minute per user, which is impossible. 16,334 mail-in images authentication files were added days after scanning. One tabulator never closed and may have had illegitimate votes added. 85 closing tapes for 12,024 Election Day ballots are unsigned or missing. And there were many voting locations for early voting, and all but 2 tabulators for closings are unsigned. So hopefully training will eliminate some of these issues, because it is very sad when people can look at information that's available through the Secretary of State and discover these problems. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ulicia Frazier, and if I have mispronounced your name, I apologize, and you can correct me.
Good morning, Lucia Frazier. I'm in Roswell. I wanted to talk first about the poll worker outreach event in Alpharetta. I went to that, and it was very well done. There was a great interaction, and there was a really great presentation and a great setup. So I do really, really appreciate that you guys have started to do that. I just had one tiny thing, is that the bus outside, and I've already told this to the ladies, it would be great if it had some poll recruitment verbiage instead of get out the vote verbiage. I think more people would have probably seen it and shown up. It's a nice big bus. So, and thank you for having recruitment for both early voting and Election Day. I've been asking for that forever, so now I feel like I'm there and I can be working both. Wanted to talk about the budget. I have to reiterate how odd and ludicrous it is. It's humongous. 37 million is just humongous. So I think there's some ORR requests. Can we please get them so we can see what we're spending it on? As a citizen, I'm very concerned, being that it was so much less all the other years, and we don't understand why we're spending all this money. There's no capital that should be needed. And then the last thing I want to talk about is it's really strange to proactively remove public comment from special meetings. I don't think hardly anybody even came to special meetings for public comment, so I'm really confused as to why you would proactively do it and then talk about it for 6 weeks to do it. It just seems like, I don't know, I think we can live together with our differences. There's no reason for you to fear us. We're citizens, you're citizens, we can all live together. We appreciate each other's differences. There's no reason to wall yourself away from us. There's no reason to, remove freedoms. We all have wonderful freedoms in this country. Let's try to maintain them even with our differences. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public comment that I've gotten notice for. Thank you. Shall we move on to approval of the minutes? We can either take them together or separately if there's amendments or changes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve both the regular meeting minutes from February 10th and also the special meeting minutes from February 22nd.
I second the motion.
Properly moved and seconded. Just want to make sure everybody's ready. Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the regular meeting on February 10th and the special meeting on February 22nd, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. The minutes are approved. We're going to move to the operations report for February, Mr. Barron.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to have each one of the staff cover their section, so Nadine will be first for the Elections Division.
Good morning, Chair and board members. For the Elections Division, we have been preparing for House District 45. The election will be held on April the 5th. There will be an emergency move presentation with the new business on the agenda that affects this election. It will be for the supplies and logistics. Staff is currently conducting inventory and preparing for full usage of our new inventory system. Relocation signs have been redesigned and ordered for the 13 May 24th polling location changes that were approved by the board. For the absentee drop boxes, there will be one absentee drop box for the April 5th election. And there will also be absentee drop boxes for May 24th election. All those locations have been posted on the website. For poll worker recruitment and training, training has started. It started on March the 7th. Recruitment has also started. The VO team has taken over the recruitment fairs. They have conducted recruitment fairs in Chattahoochee Hills and in Alpharetta. There's also recruitment fairs scheduled for Milton, Sandy Springs, and Roswell. Regarding our recruitment totals, we are more than halfway in regards to achieving our goals. We have also begun recruiting for our check-in locations as well. Advanced voting recruitment has also started. Training has been postponed due to, we are waiting to get more directives for the Jarvis system that's implemented by the SOS, but it will be on track for the upcoming election. And that concludes the Elections Division report.
Questions, comments for that? Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
On this poll worker recruitment and training, I'm looking at the areas. Are these the only areas that were requested, or how were the areas chosen to do the poll worker recruitment?
For the recruitment fairs?
Yes.
Okay, we emailed all city clerks and asked any city that was interested in conducting a fair if they would be interested, and those are the ones that we received responses from. We did get a list from the city of Fairburn, so we did get citizens that have been placed in the precincts, but these are just the locations that expressed interest that they wanted to conduct the fair.
So this was the one where you all sent the email out about when the cities talked about, or when the notion that having cities help with recruiting poll workers. This was sent out to all the cities in the county, all 15 cities, and these are the only places that responded and said we wanted to hold the fair.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, next report. Thank you.
Okay, next is Shamira with registration.
Good morning. The total number of voter registration applications that we received so far in 2022 is 19,015 applications. This number includes VR applications received via the Department of Driver Services, the online registration portal from the Secretary of State's office, any applications received from third-party vendors, and applications mailed or dropped off in our office. As of February 28th, there were 841,926 registered voters in Fulton, 736,896 of those were active, and 105,030 were inactive. In the month of February, we processed a total of 13,018 applications. We still have about 4,349 outstanding applications that need to be processed, and we are working on those diligently. As far as personnel and staffing, all registration officer positions have been filled. We will be posting the registration manager position soon. Recruitment for supplemental staff will begin March 16th with the ART Staffing Agency. We have been attending several trainings this month. We attended the NCOA training. We also went to Jarvis demo webinar. We also attended the in-person trainer session that was at our Elections Preparation Center. And we also received training on how to use the Redistricting Quality Assurance tool. That was a 2-part training. Tasks to be performed for future reporting periods. We will continue to work on street audits, list maintenance, processing applications, scanning and indexing. And that will conclude the report for the registration division.
Any questions? Ms. Wingate?
Yes, Ms. Marshall, sorry. Can you bring us up to date where we're at with mailing the precinct cards?
Yes, sir. So we have mailed precinct cards to voters that were impacted by the recent precinct changes that we made. So those precinct cards have already went out, the ones that you previously approved. As far as the redistricting precinct cards, they have not been mailed yet. We have submitted our requests, and they will be mailed once we receive them. So right now, it's taken about maybe anywhere from 18 to 20 days to receive them, and then we'll put them in the mail as soon as we do. So they have not been mailed yet.
Any idea when you think you'll receive them?
I actually have a meeting with the state today, right after this board meeting, so I will give you all an update.
Okay, thank you very
about when
much.
we will receive
Thank you.
them. You're welcome.
So just to clarify, you get those cards from Secretary of State's office, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So the vendor prints them for them. They bring them to our office, and then we're responsible for mailing them.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm sorry. Also, as it relates to the voter registration and the updates with the redistricting and all the other things, has my voter page been updated for everyone? Is that a place where people can start now looking to see if they have a new state representative, new state senator, new precinct, et cetera?
So I was actually going to address my voter page in the redistricting update.
Okay, I'll wait for that then.
Okay, and I just need to talk to Mr. Barron about something.
Okay, that's fine.
Actually, let me ask one more question. I notice on the tally of the January voter registration applications and the February ones, it looks like we've been looking all year that it's dropped significantly and then been kind of holding it at 6,000. It appears to be doubled in February this year. Has something changed? Do you know?
No, we received, although the application, they did decrease over the years, especially the ones that we received from the Department of Driver Services. Surprisingly, in the month of February, nothing really changed unless, I would say a lot of people just moved in because a buttload of our applications they were received from the Department of Driver Services. So we got about 4,000 that were new registrants to Fulton County. So I found that interesting and exciting. So we processed their applications, but yes, about 4,000 people. That's what hiked the number up to be much higher.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay, next report.
All right, Patrick Eskridge will do, excuse me, the administrative division.
Good morning. So in the administration division, we've continued to work on filling all of our positions and vacancies. All of our registration officer positions have been offered and filled at this time as of last week. The absentee officer position that we had was offered and filled. The administrative specialist, we will begin interviewing starting Monday. The registration chief, again, has been filled, and the administrative manager, we have scheduled interviews to go over today, Friday, and Monday. We'll conclude those interviews. Under qualification, the qualification period began this Monday at 9 a.m. and will run through March 11th, tomorrow at noon. The nonpartisan offices of state court judge, magistrate judge, and the Board of Education members will qualify in the registration office. And the partisan offices of the Board of Commissioners will qualify at their party's executive committee office. Under the budgets area, staff has continued to manage, track invoices and balance of staffing expenses, as well as submitting all invoices accordingly to accounts payable. That concludes the administrative report.
Questions?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Eskridge. So just remind me, so the registration officer, the absentee officer, and the registration chief have all been filled, correct?
That is correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how many officers, absentee officers, do we have in the absentee ballot? Division, yeah.
It's 4 positions.
4 positions. And so now it is fully
Correct.
staffed?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good work, team. I know getting these positions filled has been a big lift, and getting them right in the nick of time. Thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, next report.
Well, Chandra Little will do the voter education report.
Good morning, members. For February, we focused in on, of course, doing our educational seminars and lectures, doing trainings, presentations, assisting in poll worker recruitment, and then, of course, conducting deputy register training. So we have added to our total for deputy registers for the year 130, training 65 in February. We registered 36 citizens to vote. We hosted 15 events. And then in the recruitment in February, we recruited 20 poll workers. We made connections with 125 organizations, companies, municipalities, and elected officials to plan for future voter education events. And we did receive 1 media inquiry for the voter education and outreach events with the mobile bus unit. We continue to implement the plan for the 2022 year. And so along with Nadine, following up on poll worker recruitment, I actually also sent outreach to every municipality, city manager, mayor, asking if they wanted us to conduct events within their municipalities. And so to date, we have Chattahoochee Hills, Milton, Alpharetta, Sandy Springs, Fairburn, South Fulton, East Point, Hateville, and College Park, who've all committed to having us host events in their city. I've also stayed in constant contact with external affairs. As Ms. Waller can let you know, we meet weekly to make sure that they have all content for social media, and then we're also working with them on updating all of our collateral to use at our events, as well as responding to media inquiries. And the FGTV team also shot a video with our VEO team at one of our events at Georgia State this past month as well. And that's actually up on the Fulton County YouTube channel. We've implemented a monthly training schedule now for deputy registers. So any citizens within Fulton County that want to assist in setting up voter registration drives, they can now have at least 2 times a month where we're doing deputy register training in person or virtually. And for those who want to do the self-guided training, we set that up through the CITL, and so they're able to do that. I've worked with our VEO training lead because we used to, doing presentation, used to have just a one-size presentation. And so now I've worked with him so we can make sure that we have a different presentation for K through 12, colleges and universities, seniors, and et cetera. So it's just not a one-size-fits-all method. And again, working with the elections team on holding trainings to ensure that when we do the poll worker recruitments, we're up to date on everything. For March, I'm working on making sure we have SOPs for the voter education area, and also making sure we're continuing to broaden our reach in North Fulton County. I'm working with Morehouse College as they want us to host a series of deputy registrars trainings on campus to increase civic engagement. And we're also working with the Fulton delegation to host a VEO day at the state capitol, which is going to take place on March 21st. And then serving as a legislative liaison for the department, I try to make sure I keep our leadership team abreast of all of the legislation impacting elections through the collaboration with external affairs. And as always, we're continuing monthly to connect with organizations and leaders that want to have events with VEO. And that concludes my report.
Questions? Ms. Crawford?
I have one question. As far as your presentations to the school for the younger crowd, shall we say, upcoming voters, do the schools, have they been contacted, or do they reach out to you?
Both. We do reach out to the schools, and then some have been reaching out. I had some schools this week where some of the teachers are actually taking our online deputy registrar class so they can start hosting voter registration drives for at least in the high schools. And then the elementary schools are actually reach out to us because they want us to come and bring the bus so the students can practice mock elections to understand what that election process entails.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I don't have a question, just a comment. Thank you very much, LaShondra, for a very thorough report, and I appreciate having a list of the events and the dates. It's very helpful. Thank you. Look like you've been doing a lot of work out there.
Thank you.
Any questions over on this side? I have one. I note the February 3rd event for Disability Link, the address listed is in DeKalb County. I'm assuming that's just because that's the organizational address, not the location of the event?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for monitoring the legislature. It's going to be a nice, wild, and hairy week of policy work, so thank you for that. Appreciate it. And I just want to say, because I want to try to use these meetings to be a little bit informative, hopefully, for people who are watching. I share concerns that people have about the growth in our budget. And I want folks to understand that oftentimes what drives our increase in request, almost always what drives our increase in request, are regulations that require us to do certain things. So for example, when we do voter challenges, that's on top of the work of these thousands of people that have to be data inputted, and that work has to happen on a 10-day time frame. And I know the folks in this room understand that, but for people who are watching, you might not understand that. And so when we get requirements from the state that give us like sort of unmovable guidelines about what we need to do, then we have to accommodate that with our budget. And so I share the concerns about that. It rarely gets talked about. I monitor these things at the state level. It's of high concern to me that we are passing the cost of this down to property tax payers locally as opposed to spreading these requirements through the state. And so I just want to mention that. And again, thank you, team, for kind of rolling with the punches and accommodating these changes as they happen. But it does put a lot of stress on our budget, and it puts a lot of stress on all of us to, try to, when changes come quickly, we have to respond. We can't wait. We can't debate it. We just have to go. So I just thought I'd drop that in there. Are there other comments than next presentation?
All right, Mariska Bodison will cover the absentee division.
Good morning, Board. Absentee has been working on processing applications for House District 45. as well as the May 24, well, that's current. So in the month of February, we finalized scanning, indexing, retention. We processed UOCAVA voters. I met with outside state officials regarding ranked choice voting. Completed training and finalized supplemental staff onboarding. We had several meetings with SOS regarding Jarvis and Blue Crest voting system, which has been fully operational to date.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Bodison. Can you talk a little bit about the Jarvis system and Blue Crest and how they will be used?
For the May election, because April, we're not using Jarvis.
Yes, for the May election.
The Blue Crest system will process all the ballots, well, when we're mailing them out, have the IMB to track the ballot, and when we scan them in, we will then be able to track that that ballot has been returned.
And and Jarvis, can you talk a little bit about that system?
Currently, we're still being trained on Jarvis. We don't have a final date on when it's going to actually be live. So I think that will be a question for SOS at this point, Dr. Ruth.
Okay, thank you.
How difficult do you find the Jarvis training? So, I mean, for the poll workers having to use it when it's all incorporated, is it going to be difficult or?
No, it doesn't. It seemed self-explanatory, but it not being fully operational, I can't really speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll say I've sat in on a couple of the trainings last month, or some of the meetings and conversations, and I think the liftoff on the training has been pretty slow. So, not on our side, but on the, I've sat in on a couple of meetings where I thought training was going to happen, and we talked about the fact that training was going to happen, but we didn't have the training, so.
Well, and I think Shamira might be able to answer some questions on Jarvis too, because we don't even have a manual yet on Jarvis.
Ms. Marshall, you want to make a couple comments?
What I will say is the SOS have been working closely with us and providing us details and allowing us to basically ask the experts and give them feedback as the largest county that will be using the new system. So we basically walk through with them weekly to ask them any questions we may have. We do now have access to the training module, which is awesome. There are a few applications out there because I'm one of those hands-on people. I like to be able to touch stuff and actually process an application in the system. So we now have access to that. It's very modern, user-friendly. And another thing that I would like to say is they have worked with all of the managers in the department in our respective workspaces to show us what our staff will be responsible for doing. So they've worked with Sharon as far as like early voting, Mariska, absentee registration, myself. So we are working closely with them. They actually notified us this week that they pushed the date back for going live from March 14th to March 21st. So it's now pushed back to March 21st, and every day every Monday through Friday from 11 to 12, they're actually having training sessions in which our staff is attending from 11 to noon to ask the experts. So we're working closely with them. It's been very hands-on, very informative, and they're guiding us. I like it. I've been in there playing around and processing stuff and having the staff to take a look at it in order to familiarize themselves prior to the 21st, and I've been getting good feedback about it.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Marshall.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. Which one of these new systems is replacing ElectionNet? It's Garvis, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And so you don't anticipate any problems with the poll workers using check-in?
Sharon, please.
I have to answer that question. Good morning.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
There you are.
Morning. Director Blake at SOL has been working closely with me to make sure that we're actually ready for our training. I did have to push my training date back to from March 14th to March 21st, because I did not receive the training guide or manual for Jarvis. I had a little meeting with Director Blake yesterday and giving me the step-to-step process for in-person. It's still in a draft stage. We're still going through step by step and them giving us a concrete manual for in-person training. So my goal on my wish list is to make sure that we are ready for our March 21st training. The first 3 days training is with the managers, so I want to make sure that whatever is provided, that we have efficient training for each staff, that they understand the process as it relates to the code, the guide, and making sure that every voter that comes in, that we don't look like we don't know what we're doing. So the main point is, Blake Evans said he's gonna work closely with us to make sure that we are ready.
So will this be added to the current training manual, or will you have a supplement?
It would have to be a supplemental, because I've been waiting with it for a minute, so I didn't have a chance to update my training manual.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mariska, quick question on your report. You have down on the first page, which I guess is page 13 on what we're looking at here, it states that May's general primary election absentee by mail statistics. Can you run through that, because I'm not sure I'm following the information correctly here.
So for the month of April, we have, for April's election, special election, we have 2, and the updated number is 1 rejected.
Yeah, I
You
think I
talking about-
kind of followed along with your April summary.
Okay, so-
May is what's got me a little confused.
The Uocava voter current number is 79. Apps rejected was 124. Duplications is 10, and the number processed
This is only Uocava
No.
applications?
So you want the current statistics, or you want
Yeah, I
the-
just,
okay.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to confuse, but when I look at this, you indicate in terms of Uocava apps processed, and I'm assuming this is to date.
No, sir.
Is that
When
correct?
this was, should have been March 1st.
March?
When this was submitted. So it was only Uocava voters that we were accepting.
Okay.
At that time.
Okay.
And there were no, we weren't accepting absentee ballots for May election until March 7th.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So with that stated, then, we had 55 processed, but we rejected 77?
Yes, sir. They were too early.
What?
This is overall
General,
absentee
okay, general
ballots.
theme of why those were rejected.
Correct. So Uocava voters is one set of applications, and then you have regular absentee that could be elderly, disabled. And so that total number is 132.
But, quickly in my head, I guess you rejected 60% roughly of the Uocava applications?
No, sir, that's not Uocava at all. This is the overall absentee statistics. So you have Uocava apps, you have apps rejected, and so that is elderly, disabled, or yourself, me, just general public that applies, 77.
All
And then
right,
you
but
add
how many in total did you get?
132 at this time. March
So
1st.
I think they had received 55 UOCAVA apps, and then they received 77 regular ballot by mail applications. Those were all too early, so they rejected all of them. So the total was 132. I think she said they weren't able to accept applications for May
primary.
until, was it March 7th?
So that's what that's what the 77 are.
Yeah, so
Because they had submitted them too early.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
then that, if that was there, that would have explained it, so, okay. Okay, that answers that question. Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. All right, anything else? Does that conclude the reports?
Yes, that concludes the operations report.
Okay. All right, let's move on to new business, redistricting update. Ms. Marshall?
Okay, thank you. So as far as redistricting, we previously hit complete in the redistricting module. We made all of the changes, but we recently had to go back in. And we're currently just going through everything, all of the data that we have entered to date with the fine-tooth comb, just ensuring that everything is accurate, and just reviewing every detail. So I asked Mr. Barron if it was okay. First, we would like to just address the public for any voters that are listening. We would just like for them, in regards to what Mr. Johnson said about the My Voter page, we would just like to notify the public to let them know that the redistricting changes are not currently reflected in the My Voter page. So although we have made the edits in the system, they are not reflected on My Voter page. So we're just asking that the voters check back in a week. So I would like to give a date of March the 18th for certain to just ensure that their polling locations are correct. Right now, if we are currently making edits, it doesn't go live into My Voter page, and we have to wait for the overnight reports to run, even for it to reflect in ENET. So currently, we're just asking voters, if you have any questions in regard to your polling location, any new district information, any maps, any questions that you have, that you please contact our office directly so that we can answer those questions for them and provide them accurate information. And Nadine actually reached out to the state this morning to try to see if we could have a message added to the MVP website to just say that, hey, the new redistricting changes are not live yet. Please check back and then provide a date. So we're actually trying to touch the public so that citizens won't be nervous, and just reassure them that their polling locations and district information will be correct no later than Friday, March 18th. I also would like to speak a little bit about the quality assurance redistricting tool that we have access to, provided by the Secretary of State's office. It's a really great tool. I'm actually looking at it now. This tool was provided to us to basically do a comparison. It shows what we entered. So all of our state files and district information was downloaded into the tool. And then there's a comparison screen that shows you what we put in ENET versus what it should be. So it's actually helping us with this process and ensuring quality assurance for everything that we have entered to date. So it gives us this comparison screen, and if we find something or find an error, in which we have, because we are data transcribers, so we have went in, taken a look at it, and looked at the comparison screen, and if there's an error, we go back and correct it immediately. But we just want to let people know these are overnight actions and reports. So say, for example, today, if we make a correction, we will not be able to see it until tomorrow, but the public won't be able to see it until we hit complete. So that's why we're just asking if everybody could just give us about a week to just finalize everything, ensure accuracy. We're touching everything, like we're going back through. We even have a fresh set of eyes on different parts of redistricting today because we've looked at so many spreadsheets, and they're assisting us with QCing the process. And then we also would like to address the GIS maps. So in regards to the GIS maps, the public ones are not up to date yet. We have been working with the Fulton County IT department. They stated to us on yesterday that they will be updated today. They had some technical issues as well. So when the public was going out looking, and it prompted Nadine and I to reach out to her. That's how we found out. We received a few callers, which we really do appreciate those phone calls because it makes us aware of what's going on. So they were using the Fulton County redistricting map, and it's not, or the Fulton County GIS map, my apology, and it's not up to date. So we reached out to GIS, and they said the map will be up to date today with all new district information. So just check back out there probably as early as tomorrow, and the map will be correct. We were also provided by GIS an internal link that we are able to use in order to verify. So as we get phone calls and say my voter page is saying that a person is in District 2, we could pull up that internal map, and we've been working diligently on that to say, hey, you're actually in District 1. This change will be reflected by next week. And we're actually sending them like screenshots of their records. We have so many emails, correspondences and stuff going back and forth. So we're just, every phone call that we receive, we just try to provide accurate, we do provide accurate information and answer any questions that the voters may have.
Questions? All right, Mr. Wingate.
Sorry. Shamir, do you see any hiccup possibilities with regards to this issue as it relates to this special election on April 5th?
No, sir. So that's the good thing, Mr. Wingate. That's actually a great question. There will be no hiccups for the April 5th election, being that it's so small. It's only 2 precincts. House District 45 has not been affected.
Okay.
There is no
That's the
issue
answer.
with those
Okay.
voters.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, so now, a couple things. You mentioned that my voter page is not up to date yet and to wait until the end of the week. And you mentioned there's gonna be a process to let voters know. We also might wanna look at the app because just so happened I was at a meeting earlier this week and we were having a discussion about whether or not it's been updated. So now granted, this is not a super sample or anything like that. It was about 7 people. And of the 7 people, all 7 people seem to be updated, including mine. I didn't double check the polling precinct, but I know that I have a new state house member and a state house member and a new commission member. So, I sell this app as much as possible. So if I probably should get it, I'm just saying. But with the app at the meeting, we were going through the app, talking to people. I'm just joking, Madam Chair. But with the app, we were going through with people in the meeting saying, let's look at the app and see, and it seemed as though a good number of people, their information was updated. But now we will go back and make sure people know to wait. But we also might want to include the app because the app sends you straight to my voter page, just to put a notice on there.
Noted. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that it? Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for your hard work. Thanks for the update. Okay, April 5th election.
We have a polling place change for the April 5th election. This is in regards to precinct SS 19A. When the April 5th election was called, this date was not on the 2022 election calendar. So therefore, when we advised Fulton County Schools of the date, they were not able to accommodate. It falls in their spring break, and they're not able to assist us with this date. Therefore, they asked us to please relocate the poll. Therefore, we implemented an emergency move rendered by the superintendent. It has been advertised in the legal organ. We have notified voters of the change, and we have relocated this poll to the Sherwood Event Hall with SS 22. So there'll be 2 precincts at that location. It'll be 1 poll, but it'll be SS 19A and SS 22 at Sherwood Event Hall.
Questions? Comments? Do we need, Mr. Wingate?
Nadine, given this April 5th election, what's the cost going to be to do that? And is that being looked at and taken care of inside the current 2022 budget?
It is, I do not have the figures in front of me, but most of it is going to be able to be taken care of with the staff that we currently have. There's not going to be a check-in location. We already have vehicles in place and staff in place. So I don't see the cost being that much. We still had to advertise LNA, so there's still a substantial cost for that, for the ad in the paper. But as far as the exact number, we'd have to get those figures to you from our budget person.
Okay. Is there any process you have to go through because of this and the budget?
No, no.
So you all do not have to do anything, just let it happen?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm sort of assuming that any unanticipated expenses that happen early in the year then tend to show up at the end of the year. All right, do we have to vote to approve that change?
Madam,
No,
Mr.
it was-
Eskridge.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The election 5th budget is roughly $61,000. That's the budget we have currently for April 5th election, yes, sir.
61,000.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we need to vote to.
No, we rendered it by the emergency move by the superintendent, so it was approved by the superintendent as an emergency move.
Okay, thank you. All right, next one. May 24th election, notice of election.
Okay, we just wanted to inform the board that the city of East Point, the city of College Park, and the city of Hapeville, all 3 cities have a most referendum to be placed on the ballot, which is a water and sewer projects cost. We just wanted to inform you that that was going to be placed on the ballot, and those questions are in your agenda packet.
Okay, and do we need to approve those particular?
No, the cities have already placed the advertisements and called the election for their cities as superintendent for their
Okay.
special election.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions about those? Everything good? All right, time for the legislative update and crossover days next week, so it's getting fun. What you hear now may not be what happens an hour from now. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Jessica Corbett, Director of External Affairs for Fulton County. I provided Ms. Robinson a copy of a little report prepared by our team that I hope you have in your packets. But as Ms. Woolard just said, these things are moving fast and furious. So I'm going to go over a couple, but really the most, several of these bills have kind of rolled up into House Bill 1464, and that's what I'd like to spend most of the time talking about today. Just as we saw SB 202 was an omnibus bill last year that kind of wrapped its arms around a lot of issues, many of the things that you see here were rolled into House Bill 1464, which began as a bill that talked about the role of GBI in investigating fraud cases. However, there's a substitute, which I have enjoyed reading while you all were talking this morning, that was introduced, and this is actually in the second part of its committee hearing this morning as we speak. So there may be some additional changes. But I want to highlight a few of the most important ones. You talked about the cost impact of legislation, and on their own, one specific provision may not have an outsized cost, but it's sort of the Starbucks effect of if you buy a coffee every single day, by the end of the year, you have accrued a significant expense. So when we have things like special containers or special additional provisions, when you have a county of our size, those kinds of investments do have sort of a force multiplier effect, and we accrue costs more rapidly than many of our sister counties might. So I'm going to, this bill, and you'll hear what I'm talking about with the kind of omnibus characteristic of it, deals with things, there's a lot of cleanup language, if you will, or clarification for some of the provisions in SB 202. For example, it talks about the grants issue. And so in SB 202, there was some opportunity for clarification. The new procedure would be that the grant-making agency would need to go to the state election board to essentially ask to give that grant. There's a lot of information in here related to security containers. That's something we've heard a lot about. So we would need to work with the department to first determine if the containers we use for things like provisional ballots and absentee ballots and ballots collected from drop boxes, if those meet the new standard, if this bill is successful and becomes law, or if that is an additional expense. Because again, one of those containers might be $100 or it might be $10, we don't know. So those are things that we have to kind of figure out, and what is the impact over time. In addition, there is clarification about the role of poll observers. This is something, and having been with us specifically through recounts and on election nights, I think there is some good language about just ensuring that everyone is clear about what everyone's roles are. So it clarifies that a poll watcher can be designated by a party who has a candidate on the ballot. So we've heard sometimes from parties that do not technically have a candidate on the ballot and are seeking to designate a poll watcher. So those are issues I know the Secretary of State dealt with, and that is clarified in this provision. There's also, on the staffing cost potential, there's several areas, both for absentee ballots, for ballots in drop boxes, and for provisional ballots, where there are additional requirements or clarification of requirements for chain of custody, so that each person who touches or observes or has a role in processing those ballots, there's additional documentation procedures for the chain of custody. Again, the individual action may be small, but if you multiply that by 300 precincts, there may be some staffing impact potentially, or it's just something that there may be a training impact as well. So we would need to talk with the department a little bit more to learn how significant those kinds of modifications, which again, on their surface may not be large, but they may have an impact multiplied by the hundreds of precincts that we operate. The last impact is really, that I'll go over for this specific bill, is really related primarily to the Clerk of Superior Court. And that is about the unsealing of ballots after Election Day. So under this new law, it stipulates that ballots are not sealed after the election, that they are subject to inspection. It does give the department, in this case the Clerk of Superior Court, the opportunity to charge a reasonable charge for that service. I think the challenge could be in a county like Fulton that is under a great deal of scrutiny, that there could be just some operational things that they would also need to work through. If you have dozens of requests or this one request, it also is staffing impact because only the designated official can touch the ballot, but they may be inspected in other ways by the requesting party. So we would need to, again, talk to them. I don't know that, I certainly don't think they have that process today because this is a new provision under the law. So they would have to develop a process to allow those inspections to occur securely, have enough space for them. Even just the physical storage of ballots is a major logistical consideration. So those are things that they would have to work through. I'm sure that the election officials across the state are dealing with this. We just have a significantly higher volume impact here in Fulton County. Like I said, this bill is in committee today, so we will be monitoring to see if it receives a do pass recommendation and moves over. As you mentioned, crossover day is next Tuesday, so we are really in the thick of this and seeing, but it does appear that many of the other bills that were mentioned in the report have rolled up into House Bill 1464. We are also, just want to speak really quickly to, I think there are competing bills like we've talked about before on do away with drop boxes, bring back all the drop boxes. There really hasn't been, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of movement on that specific legislation, but we are continuing to monitor. There's also some legislation about election dates that are very specific and honestly not necessarily relative, at least to Fulton County. They may have an impact on the city of Atlanta for T-SPLOST, for example. Our T-SPLOST bill is not necessarily affected by that specific legislation. With that, I can take any questions or if there are any other areas you'd really like us to highlight.
Questions? Thank you so much, particularly on this omnibus bill, because I think the sub came suddenly yesterday and with a hearing that's probably happening as we speak. And one thing that I find challenging as somebody who's been at the Capitol most of my career, although not right now, is that we don't get to hear from the people who are impacted when these things happen so quickly. And for example, I'm really frustrated that on some of these matters, we're not hearing from election officials when they come about these impacts. And again, for Fulton County, because we are magnitudes larger than most of the other 158 counties in the state, it really does impact us in a different kind of way. And I'm particularly concerned about the issue of the acceptance of outside money to make budgets work. I think we received about $11 million or something to that effect in the last election that helped us bridge a gap that currently exists in our budget. So again, for those who are watching our budget, you know, if we had a full spectrum of runoffs with high levels of participation, you know, we're probably going to be looking for about $10–11 million toward the end of the year in our budget. So that's of concern because it has to not only go to the state election board, but my understanding is the language says that then whatever comes in has to be distributed amongst all the counties. So if somebody wanted to designate $10 million for Fulton County elections, we wouldn't receive the full impact of that. Again, these issues of both chain of custody in particular, we just have to be careful that we're actually solving a problem as opposed to anticipating a problem, and there's a fine line there. But when we are up against deadlines about getting things in, and we face, I talk about it all the time, the traffic that, you know, when we close a poll at rush hour and then have to get in, get them counted, and you know, have everything to the Secretary of State by time certain, in a county our size, that becomes very challenging, and then requires us to have more people or more vehicles or more things that will allow us to disperse the work that we have. So I just want to point those things out because, again, I appreciate when people raise the issue of our budget, but I think peeling back some of the detail on the challenges that we face, and some of them are impromptu, right? We did our budget for this year, but they could do legislation that impacts what we have to have in place for the election this year that we didn't anticipate when we put our budget together. So people should watch out for that. If we come back with additional requests, it may be related to unfunded mandates that get passed down to Fulton County property taxpayers.
That's absolutely 100% true. I wanted to mention we received this about 8:30 last night, so I asked Ms. Robinson to share a copy with you all electronically. I do expect that after today's committee meeting, there will be additional changes to the legislation, and we will make sure that you all receive a copy of that as well, because it is significant. I did not talk about absentee ballot applications and a few other things that are in here, but it's a fairly lengthy bill, 40 pages. So there's a lot in here, but we will monitor that and try to provide some additional analysis.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make a comment, and even in providing the additional analysis from a budgetary standpoint would be very helpful for us to think ahead of what the impact is. And, we're in a different season as far as elections, and we're not the only state that's experiencing some of this. And I will say, when it comes to chain of custody, we did have some issues around chain of custody years ago. And so some of these bills, while may have some significant impact, I think the goal of them is to improve security and integrity and increase the confidence of elections. And we're, this is not something that is just impacting us. And for us, Fulton County, we are the largest county, and so we will feel the impacts. We just have to be ready to adjust.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the report. All right. Next up, we can have the option of going into executive session, but before we do that, I just want to make a couple of remarks. I know Mr. Barron needs to go early afternoon to participate in some interviews, but I wanted to make sure that while you are here, just in case we have a lengthy executive session, should we decide to go into one, that I say this to you. This is the last meeting that Richard Barron will be with us officially, the last regular meeting. I have no doubt we will have other meetings between now and the 1st of April where you'll be with us. But I wanted to say this today. I personally am so incredibly grateful for the work that you have done as director of Fulton County elections. I've been a candidate during your tenure. I have been a voter during your tenure, and now I have been the chair of the Board of Registration and Elections. When I got this position, I had never met you. I knew nothing about you, but I've had the opportunity over the last 4 or 5 months to get to know you, and I just want to say you have given us outstanding service. It has been a difficult time, and you've done that under the stress of national and international scrutiny. You have had a cool head. You have kept your team together during a period of time of just incredible difficulty and stress, and I want to thank all of you for your work during this time. What I've discovered about you is that you are truly a nonpartisan public servant. Every single time we have talked about elections, you have talked about what the law says, you have talked about the work that you're doing, and you have tried to perform at the highest possible level. And in fact, I don't understand how you have lasted this long with the hot seat that you have been on, and I thank you for that. I also want to say you're just one of the most decent people that I've had the pleasure to work with, and that's saying a lot these days. Sometimes we lose our temper, and again, you just haven't taken shortcuts. You've really done things the hard way. The other thing that I have been impressed with, and again, I'm just learning about elections. As you know, I still have to ask for clarification on lots of things that would be simple for people. But what I have seen in terms of innovation in this department was not something I expected. So when we listen to reports about how we have to balance electricity loads and internet capacity just for reprogramming our programs, and how the team has come together to fine tune that, or that we have added extra capacity to be able to turn things around. When I see the customer service crisis room that we use in the emergency management system during election day, and the group of people that are there taking every call, recording every call, answering every question, even if we know the answer, we're doing it in a very systematic way so we can track it. And I go into this detail because I want people to know that there are things you don't see about the operations of Fulton County elections. And like many things in government, when things don't go wrong, you don't hear about it, right? We don't know. When everything's going well, it's just kind of, falls into the void. And there are a lot of things that go well. And so again, thank you, because again, I know that this team has been in shifting sands now for several years of all these changes that come, of budgets that we have to quickly adapt, of considerations that are political that we have to respond to. And I'm just sorry that more people aren't aware of the incredible work that you've done to make things go. Just make sure that I don't forget some of the things that I really wanted to say to you. I just want to say, I just wish you the very best in your future. I know that you have a skill set that is incredibly useful to us here and to our country as we think about what the future of our democracy looks like. And I hope you'll continue to use your wisdom and just your incredible steady hand to help us maintain the democracy that we all think is very, very important. And to the staff, I know there is a lot of anxiety whenever there is a change at the top. I want to give you my word that we are going to be incredibly deliberate and careful. I don't know that we'll find a successor that has all of the incredible characteristics that Mr. Barron has shown over time, but I want you to know that our thinking is about you as a staff is uppermost in our mind as we deliberate over where we go from here. So thank you very much for that. When I think about what's going on in the Ukraine and the fight those people are putting up for the opportunity to have a representative democracy, I thank you guys so much for what you do for things that we take for granted, and that as we see every night on the evening news, we just simply can't take for granted. So thank you again, Rick Barron, for your service. And you might be back after the meeting, but I just wanted to make sure that you were here when I said this. I don't know if anybody else has comments.
Mr. Barron, I met you about 4 years ago, and through these past 4 years working with you, with your department, in my various volunteer positions, has been an incredible experience and eye-opening, to say the least. And I want to thank everyone, but especially you at the moment, Rick. Thank you so much for all the time. Even when I was at the warehouse at 3 in the morning, you were at the warehouse at 3 in the morning. So I want to thank you so much for all the time that you've put in, and everyone else, because this isn't a 9-to-5 job. During election cycle, there are a lot of sleepless nights for a lot of different people, and I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure meeting you. It's been a pleasure knowing you, and I hope that I get to see you again, that this isn't the end. And thank you so much, Rick.
Other comments?
Well, I also just want to thank you for your hard work, and I know that these last few years have not been easy for you or your family, and I truly appreciate all that you've done over these years. I've only got to know you was appointed in 2019, and I know that there's been lots of ups and downs, but I truly wish you the very best and know that you will do well in the next career that is awaiting you.
Rick, you know, I think we worked together for, the last 5-6 years. It's not always easy. I want you to know that whether you can take that or not, it was never personal. You know, I have tried my best to make this a business-related affair, and when we have great things that have been done, I think that has been acknowledged, maybe not as much as it should have at all times. But regardless, you know, you're a good man, fine man. I wish you all the luck in the world. I'm sure that with the need for competent officials in certain geographical areas that I'm hoping for you, family, that you get back in and have a very, very solid future going forward, and that lasts you for many, many years to come. So thanks again. Good luck.
Well, it's not often that I'm the old guy on the list, but it seems like I've been here the longest, and we've been through a lot together. When I came into this position, there was a lot of chatter on both sides. We love Rick, we hate Rick. We love Rick, we hate Rick. And I said, well, let's just see who Rick is. And right after the 2016 elections, you know, there was some chatter. And then I got on, and then that was when we were coming up to the 2018 elections. And I got to see people shift all the time. And in 2018, you had a group of people that said, you know, hey, we got to get rid of Rick. You know, that's just, Rick got to go. 2019-20 comes, it shifted to the other side. Rick has to go. The one thing that I agree with the chair is that you've always stayed solid to the law. You've always said, this is it, black and white, this is it. And you've always worked, the thing that I appreciate about you is how hard you work to make voting accessible for the people of Fulton County. Everything you've done is to create an opportunity for people in Fulton County to vote. You never looked at whether Republicans are voting. You never looked at whether Democrats are voting. You looked at whether or not the citizens of Fulton County have an opportunity to vote, and you worked hard to make sure that happened. I always felt bad for you because I felt like we were taking you away from your family and taking you away from this and taking you away. I feel like besides the chair, I probably talk to you the most on the phone when I'm at the house, you're at the house, you're walking the dog, you're doing this, I'm doing that, and we're talking about everything, and it leads from elections to something else and then back to elections. And I really appreciate those conversations. And I appreciate the times that you've taken to talk to me, because I think that every time I've talked to you, it's about an election-related position. You've always stayed solid. You've always stayed the same. You were always a gentleman. You were always compassionate for the people. You were always looking for ways to help people be able to have access to the ballot. No matter what was being said about you, no matter what was being said to you, I commend you. I've always thought a great deal of you, because very few people can sit here every week or every month and listen to people come down to that podium and talk about what type of person they feel like you are, and not in a great way. But you've never lashed out at those people. You've never said anything to those. You always, when they call back, when they come back, they stand there and they say the worst things about you. But when they call the office and they need something, you make sure that they get what they need. And we really appreciate that, and I think we're gonna miss that. I think Fulton County is gonna have a void. As much as people talk about doing something different, I think there is going to be a void. I do agree with the chair as well. With the staff, we really appreciate everything the staff has done and everything the staff is having to go through that's not necessarily anything that any of you did yourselves. I understand the atmosphere. I understand that we get a lot that we don't ask for, but we can always quit tomorrow and nothing will happen. But with you all, I understand it's a livelihood, and we really appreciate everything you do. And Rick, I'll say for me, I'm going to miss you, but unfortunately, I still have your personal cell phone number, so I won't be too far away. But I really appreciate everything that you've done. I enjoyed working with you. I'm going to miss working with you, and I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Rick, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but at this or at future meetings, you are welcome to say whatever you would like to say as you go to the next role.
Well, I was hoping I could sneak out of here today. Thank you, everyone, for those words. I don't know if I can talk very long or at all. So I'll just say that it's been, feel like Jerry Maguire. It's been an honor. Some people have asked me, I jokingly told somebody, I think a group of people actually, it was at Election Center a couple weeks ago, what was your biggest accomplishment? And I said, well, the previous 5 people that had this job lasted a total of 6 years, and I've been here almost 9. So, but I've really enjoyed the staff here. Coming in every day has been the best part about this job. All of the people that have, come and gone over the last 9 years, I think about all of them, and it's been an honor to work with everyone here, especially with everything that we went through in 2020 and 2021. And I think I can say that I'm leaving Fulton County better than I found it. And it's been an honor, and working with the board, all of the previous board members, current board members. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I do have a sense of relief about April 1st coming. So anyway, thank you to everyone. And yeah, I did go to Ukraine for an election observation mission in 2019 with the OSCE. And I think about a lot of the people that I met in Poltava and some of the little cities that I went to do the observation. And it's hard to think about a couple of I remember there was a lady that was a poll worker, and she had a husband and a tiny daughter, and who knows what's happened to them. I don't know. But yeah, every day I think about all the people I met in Ukraine in 2019 doing that. And that's a hard one to swallow, what's going on there. But I'll stop talking now. I just thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And like I said, we'll probably have a few special meetings between now and April 1st, and you can just keep on going if there's something else you want to say. But thank you. I just wanted to make sure we did this today. All right, we're going to move on to the agenda. I think we have some personnel matters to discuss. So if someone would like to make a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we go into executive session for personnel.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We're going to go into executive session now. For the purposes of the staff, it is always difficult to determine how long we will be in executive session, but shall we allocate 45 minutes for the staff to go and have lunch or take a little break for a minute and then come back? And I would say, if it's going to be longer than that, we'll find some way to get a word to you, but we will not, someone do math for me, we will not start before 5 after 12, is that right? It might be longer than that. I'm just trying to give you guys a safe window to not have to keep track of us, okay? All right, thanks very much. We will be back. All right, we are back from our executive session. If someone will make a motion that we will return to regular session?
Madam Chair, I move that we exit executive session.
Second?
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of returning to regular session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. We are back in session. And I don't believe we have any other business unless the staff waves their hands frantically and tells us we need to. If somebody wants to make a motion
Madam
to
Chair,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.